Welcome back to Mind Your Bap.
I'm Marty.
I'm Robbie.
I'm Sam.
Our special guest today.
Correct.
And what we're going to be talking about today, guys, is the role of the carer, the strain that can be on carers, the mental health impact. Sam's graciously going to share his story with us today. Looking forward to you discussing and telling us about your...
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really important story to talk about because there are tens of thousands of carers in Northern Ireland at the moment performing really important roles, and I think what we need to maybe peel back on is what support is there for carers, and what might be needed, because there's definitely a void there.
There is, and again, thanks for coming in.
Not a problem.
Looking forward to hearing your story as well. You've told me a little bit, so let's hear what you've got to say, really. So start us off, tell us about yourself and who you are.
I'm Sam, as I said. I grew up on the Shankill Road, different parts of it. For the last decade I've been working in the greater Lisburn area and living out here. But on the track that we're on today, roughly about 12 years ago, my mother's mental health took a severe dip. And it progressed at a slow rate to start with before it started to basically get on like a boulder coming down a hill. We started off with dark mood swings, conversations that weren't comfortable to have sometimes about how she was feeling, and that developed into sort of seeing scratches on her arm, cuts that were pain out of places, and the self-harm didn't really get raised until we as a family raised it with her, and that took a bit of a bite to say who was going to broach it, because once you broach it you admit to it and there's an issue. And although you try and paper over the cracks, mental health does come to the forefront and it impacts everything. So the self-harm started, and then we had, what's the best way to describe this? She took tablets. She tried to put her head through pane glass windows, but none of these were really serious attempts at ending her life. To me, it was more of a call for help. She was deteriorating and getting into a darker place than she was before. And I finally accumulated 6 years ago into a really bad suicide attempt that did nearly kill her. She was discovered by luck. My brother called on the off chance and found her collapsed on the floor. She has done organ damage to kidneys and livers, and they'll never regenerate. And for a while after that, it sort of frightened her more. Those dark thoughts she could control more because she knew that she didn't want to go through that again. But then what you find is the dark thoughts come back heavier, and then she wants not to be here anymore. And as a carer, that's what you have to face. So when you turn up at her house for a cup of tea or to visit her for the night, and the conversation can either go one of two ways. One is a normal conversation about the news, the weather, family matters, or the other one is, I don't want to be here anymore.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yes.
Note? What's the drive like over? What are you thinking?
I'm anxious the night before. I spend one night a week staying overnight with her. My brother and my sister do help out as well, but that's because I live further away from the family home. I go over and stay overnight to give her as much attention as I can. So the night before, the anxiousness begins. Now I phone her during the week, and you can sort of gauge from that how we are on the scale, as we say. But then that doesn't prevent the night before. I'm prepping my bag for an overnight stay. I do other things that I take stuff with me for. So you're prepping, and that already builds the tension slightly. I then go into work for half a day, and throughout the day, work is a great distraction as such, but when it's quieter, it's not a distraction. And then you drive over, and the radio can be playing whatever, and I hear none of it.
How long have you been performing that role for? But yourself and your family have been supporting your mum, but how long have you... Would you say
15 years.
15 years?
Yeah.
So so when things were starting to manifest themselves, you guys all stepped in to help support and care for her?
Well, it wasn't as if we recognised the problem and we stepped in. We just noticed things that weren't right. She had went from being a strong woman to work 2 jobs. One of her jobs was getting people long-term unemployed into employment, boosting their confidence. She was the centre of some people's careers, I think, getting them motivated. She also was the girl that everybody in the family who had issues came to. My mum was the girl that sorted all that out, and then one day it stopped.
Was there a trigger?
Well, through her counselling, we have found out that childhood trauma has played a big bit into it. A couple of failed marriages, through no fault of her own, have played into it. And I think just carrying the sort of worries of the rest of the family.
Yeah.
Well, can I just reverse back a wee bit, because there's a fantastic investigative work being done at the moment in trauma related mental illness, and you said that through your mum's counselling that some of that has come out, and also, Sam, because I know what age you are and I know where you're from too, and I know a little bit of your background. There's quite a bit of we're of a generation where the Troubles would have had an impact on where we lived, and we went through a lot of that. So, and your mum would have lived through a lot of that too. So, more from your perspective, how does that living through that time and those issues affect, and I suspect they have an impact on your own journey?
Well, personally, I can't speak for hers, but it's just, I would assume it'd be similar. When you live in amongst an area like the Shankill, it's almost like there's a constant cloud of oppression that you don't know what's going to come next. There's always going to be a knock at the door, or something's going to happen, and you live with that, and you live in a constant pressure cooker effect, and then it stops. And it's at that point, when the pressure comes off, you start to see the scars, and you start to realise that what was normal is abnormal to everybody else in the world. People that I now talk to in other routes of life are amazed at what we went through, but we accepted that. I mean,
it's the normal.
It's normal, but you're talking about like it's an everyday event, and then they're kind of going, "What?" We bit shocked at that. So that tells you in itself, doesn't it?
And again, myself, I have witnessed some trauma, and other people have witnessed more. Some people have witnessed less, but we all carry it. And it's only through how I've developed over the last year that I have explored that trauma and talking to other people about it and opening up, that you suddenly realise that yes, that is affecting me. It didn't at the time, but it has done. And then things like my wife pointing out to me that I do wake up with nightmares. I didn't realise I woke up with nightmares. She's told me. And
I know we're going to cover this topic on another Mind Your Bap podcast, but it sounds a little bit like PTSD. There's an element of PTSD in there.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a few guys who are ex-security forces that actually worked in the same area that I lived in the same time, and we compare stories from the two different viewpoints of what had happened, and what they are describing is they're being treated for PTSD for the exact same event that I witnessed and was part of. So therefore, does that mean I have PTSD? Until somebody puts a label on it, I suppose. But then it's not, PTSD is not just for those who served. People have lived through it, people have witnessed it, people have had knocks at doors. And I would say PTSD in our generation is certainly widespread. People just haven't realised that it is yet.
I was kind of lucky. I kind of grew up in the tail end, but I still remember small things. But luckily, I've never seen anything graphic. But even remember the FIFA.
Yes.
On that time, I remember that actually happening, and even thinking, what's going on? And my dad used to actually clean windows in the camp, weirdly, and that day he didn't go to work. So it was just small events and wrong time, wrong place sort of scenario. You're right in the middle of it.
The amount of people we've talked about the event on the Shankill bombing, and you were relating your story that you normally come up around about that time. The amount of people I've talked to who used to come up under the Shankill from outside of the Shankill, or who were on the Shankill, or who should have been somewhere that day. The amount of near misses. Everybody has a story to tell about that event from the area.
You remember? You remember where you were on the day.
You do. You remember every small detail. And then it's the other details you talk about, like the silence. It's not like Hollywood. It's definitely not. When a bomb goes off, it's not like that. And I don't even remember the bang. As far as I'm concerned, the building was just down. So whatever happened, that bit's blacked out, and a lot of other people have the same memory of it as such. So trauma and terror like that does affect everybody in a way that you need to explore. You do. You need to open up about and talk to people about.
So we're gonna just, because I think that's important, but we're just to set the scene in terms of your background, but I think we'll go back into your journey here, if that's okay. So I think we got to the point where you're spending at least one night a week with your mum, and as Marty picked up a really good point, that foreboding that you experienced on the journey down. So you've been caring for your mum for a number of years now, and so and along that journey, did you feel like you were gaining skills? Did you feel like you were coping? Did you feel like you were capable?
At the time you feel as if you're coping. Okay. You do feel as if, yes, I'll go over here, I'll get it done, I'll help her out, but she needs this week, I'll talk to her. You get through the night, say goodbye the next morning, and you think you've left her in a better way than you found her.
Yeah.
But then have you? And then that's when the doubt comes. So even the drive away the next day to work, you're still questioning, have you done enough?
Yeah.
And in your head, you're trying to. It sounds callous, it sounds cold, but you're trying to schedule in phone calls through the week to see how she's doing. And like everybody, your life is busy, your life is packed, and it's not an excuse, it's just the way things are. And you try to make sure that there's time to do that. And no matter what time you give to do it, it's never quite enough.
Yeah.
Even to yourself, you always feel as if you should have maybe done a wee bit more.
Yeah.
But at what part then do you have time for yourself?
Yeah.
At what time do you have time to let off steam?
There's build up a guilt in there, Sam.
Yeah, there is a large amount of guilt. And I said you taper that in there with the ominous feeling of going over.
Especially driving away, I suppose you think should have stayed a wee bit longer, maybe. You know, them sort of feelings come across.
It's. I mean, I'm time bound the next morning with work. I need to be away at a certain time, and some weeks you go and it's bye, see you later, and everything's great. You've got a doctor's appointment. You know what you're doing the rest of the week. I'll give you a call. Come Wednesday, Thursday. Other days you're going out going, that conversation wasn't finished yet.
Yeah.
There's more that could have been said there. I'm not quite sure she's on an even keel just yet. And you sort of, and it's not the first time I've went away and then phoned back to carry on the conversation. But again, you got to arrive at work at some time.
Right.
You've got to end the conversation at some point. And so for some of the issues that she's going through, they don't end.
Well, can I ask you, in terms of professional services, clinical services, medical services, social services, what's the relationship like there for a carer with those that might be providing support for your mum?
Up until recently, totally detached.
Okay.
She was at a psychiatric nurse. She was at a counselling service, a Jigsaw, which is very good for her. She's really enjoyed it. GP, and she's attended hospital for, because going with the mental health issues, there's a lot of physical health issues that are now manifesting. As depression, you don't want to get out of bed, you don't want to go out. So no exercise, weight gain, then diabetes. Other issues going on in there, that everything is just milking into one big unhappy bowl for her. But all those services that she was attending, I wasn't a part of. In fact, most of the family weren't a part of. So she was going in, unloading or taking on information and tablets, mostly tablets, and then come back and telling us what had happened from what she remembered. It's only been the last while back that there's a lady now calling out from the area mental health services. She has now taken my number, and she now updates me after every visit, and we talk.
Have you found that? Has it been good?
Oh, brilliant! That has been a light, because now I know from my mum's bias towards what the conversation is, because she's emotionally attached to it. Of course. So you need somebody from outside detached to give you the cold, hard facts. But and although she gives me the information, some of it's not nice to take. I've had a phone call to come out of work early to go up to the house and take a hammer out of the house, because she had thoughts of harming herself with the hammer. Specifically the hammer, nothing else. So you're driving out of work 2 hours early across town, and it's a mixture of relief that anger is also in there, and fear. And then the conversation, what is the conversation when you arrive? That day I handled it by, hello, how you doing? Into the kitchen, lift the hammer, I'll see you later on, and walked back out, because I didn't know how to broach what was going on. But yes, it has got better, but up until that point there was no connection between me, my sister, my brother, and the care that she was receiving.
That's really tough. I'm glad it's changed, but you would all have assumed in 2017, 18, 16, 19, whatever it is, that would be the norm. Sam, we'll jump forward.
Okay.
To basically last year.
Okay.
If that's okay, and if you want to just tell us what was happening to you and what was manifesting in terms of your person.
To be honest, nothing had really changed as much. Mother had her bad episode years ago, as we call it, and nothing had really got to that level again. But it was still a constant sort of cycle. And I thought everything was just normal. I felt normal. I thought I was coping, despite conversations with my wife to tell me to go and get some help and talk to people and see if there's any help for carers out there. I didn't need that. I was I was broad-shouldered, I was experienced, I was an adult, mature, I can cope with it. Father's Day 2018 came. I had a nice day, cards, presents, nice dinner, had one glass of wine, a glass of whiskey to celebrate, and I went to bed. Normal. The next day I got up and I felt a bit groggy is the best word for it. And I thought maybe just a glass of wine had an effect on me, but it didn't quite feel that way. And then as the morning progressed and I was making breakfast and getting my bag ready for work, everything started to close in. The point where it was almost all I could see was what was in front of me, nothing else. Sounds, noises, the dogs were running about the house, none of it made any difference. They were all totally oblivious to me. I locked the door, got into the car, drove down the driveway to the end of the drive to the road and stopped. And at that point I didn't know whether I was indicating left or right. I didn't know where I was going. I wasn't going to work, I was just going. I don't know whether I was going for the day, a week, forever. I was just away. I had no intentions of harming myself.
Yeah.
But I was just going to go. And I have no idea why. It just broke that day. Yeah. Thankfully I turned left, headed along the motorway past work into Belfast and ended up at my wife's place of work. Phoned her, she came out, and at that point I broke down and cried. It was just a relief. And I spoke to her how I maybe should have told her. For years, growing up through the trauma we had, I had a single parent mother bringing us up. I was always treated like the man of the house from a very young age. So you learn to compartmentalise things. You either put it away, store it, you can deal with that later on, deal with what's in front of you first. I have a younger brother, helped look after him, and then things develop through the years. So you put this stuff away.
You find the pressure, by the way, being a man of the house at such a young age?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do now. At the time, no.
Yeah.
But now I realise what effect. Now, don't get me wrong, it has made me a very responsible person and a very mature person.
Positive side of it, but...
But childhood is then limited.
There's a price to pay.
Yes.
There's a price to pay, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I'm keen that my kids now get to have a childhood.
Yeah.
You try and keep them as kids as long as you can. Because you grow up very quick.
It's also an excuse for you to get doing some of the kids stuff.
I can relive my childhood through my kids.
You like wrestling then, do you?
No, it's more football.
His kids are bigger than him, he doesn't wrestle anymore.
They are, actually. But yeah, it's that day was probably the darkest and the deepest I've been.
So when you got to the end of the drive, and I know we went beyond it, but you get to the end of the drive and I'm thinking about that, I'm sort of visualising it, Sam. I'm thinking there was something clicked inside you, but it was your body or your mind saying enough.
It was the mind.
Enough.
Yeah.
And so there was like a valve went off. Now you didn't get the release or the relief at that point, but your mind went, that's it.
Thankfully, somewhere down in there,
yeah,
there was an autopilot that said, "Go get help."
Which might be part of that upbringing that you had, where you were the adult.
Yeah.
That responsible bit, which stopped it from tipping into the darker thoughts that you said you weren't thinking about your own mortality. You weren't thinking. You just knew that at that point your journey was changing.
I think on reflection of it, it's not a guaranteed answer, but it's an opinion that I just wanted away. Yeah. I just needed to be away from it, to get away from the pressure of everything. Yeah. To escape my own life, because it become to that point where it was a burden. Yeah. It really was. Building up to it, I mean, my mother had a severe childhood trauma, and then a few failed marriages. So her problems were boulders, big boulders put on their hands. Mine weren't. Yeah. Mine were small stones and pebbles, and they just kept piling on. So whether it be work, whether it be you're not doing this, you're overweight, you're looking after your mother, you've got the kids to see this week. Yep. And a lot of it was normal stuff, like, have you enough to pay your oil this month? It's the simple issues, but they all added on top of everything else. And then you start to remember the other stuff from your childhood, what you've seen, what you've experienced, how your life was different to other people's. Yeah. And then you start to go, right, okay, have I carried a lot more than I should have been carrying? Yeah. And with your hands full, you can't help anybody else at that point. Mm. And that's what I've learned. I've got to sit down, solve my issues and deal with them, so I can carry on helping other people.
Yeah, and you said something else as well there, but a bit of self-awareness, kind of knowing when to take yourself out of the pressure cooker.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of people don't do that. They just carry on. Where sometimes you just need to. I need a day for me here.
But you don't do it because you feel selfish.
Exactly. And yeah, that's very true. But
And I do it now, but I still feel like a git for doing it.
Yeah.
So when my mum phoned and said, "What do you do today?" I went to the gym. Well, you could have come up. Well, yes, I could have.
Yeah.
But if I hadn't went to the gym today,
If I can't help me, I can't help you.
I wouldn't have been
Yeah,
fit tomorrow
true.
to come up. And
There's
that's
a cracking image I seen actually about that, tipping
Uh-huh.
yourself out and kind of filling everybody else up, but when you're running empty, basically,
Yeah.
you're no use to anyone.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I like that self-awareness, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
See, you met with your wife, who's
Yep.
she's a wonderful girl. She's a wonderful woman. But so, and you get in the car and you break down.
yes.
And I would imagine that you got some good advice. You definitely will have got some good support. But what was there anything that stands out as a changer for you?
As in what I said or what I
Yeah.
felt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I said was a lot more than what I've ever said to anybody.
Okay.
So parts of my childhood came out that day.
With your wife.
Yeah. That I've never spoke about.
Yeah.
And it's only when I came out I realised, oh, that's a problem. That's an issue there.
Yeah.
I didn't realise I was carrying that.
And was it genuinely hidden? Was it so hidden that you didn't know? As in, not that you weren't aware of it, but you didn't see it as a problem.
I didn't see it as a problem,
But because it,
but then it came out.
so you therefore.
So the release valve opened, and there was no holding back. It was hell for leather. Yeah.
Good.
Good's the wrong word. Relief.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like when you burn your hand and you put it under a cold tap.
Yeah.
It doesn't take the burn away, just relieves it.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it felt. It was the first time I felt as if I had inhaled fully.
Mhm.
The shoulders opened, and I just, yeah, happy's the wrong word, but yeah, just relief. The first step was taken. Now, there's never been an easy step after that. I'm not going to lie to people and say it's all good from that point. It isn't. And it gets harder some days and gets easier some days. But it's a relief, and I can do it. And from that one day, no matter how dark it gets now, I know I survived that.
Yeah.
So if I can survive that day, then today I can face. And that's the way it goes. Some days I'm happy-go-lucky. Other days I function,
Yeah.
and it's just function. And I go through my methods of coping. I have set up little bits of coping mechanisms and tools that I use. I got a journal,
Uh-huh.
Carol's advice,
Yeah.
write it down. And what I found is when it comes out and down the arm, through the ink, onto the page, it's no longer in my head.
You were telling us about you're kind of doing sort of borderline poems, isn't it? Really?
Yep,
Some stuff you're writing this.
The Shankill Bard.
I started an access course a couple of years back to prove to myself that I could do a degree, because I felt as if I should have done it years ago. And one of the modules on the access course was English literature. I had no interest in it whatsoever. I was doing history and politics, but they had to tag another one on, and this was it. So I went into it and I spoke to the tutor godlover, Maeve, on the first day, and said, "Look, I will give you facts and figures all day long, but I don't do this arty stuff.
Yeah.
I just do not do emotional, interpretive stuff. Bear with me, Sam. We'll go through this."
Yeah.
By the end of the year, I was writing poetry. I go to watch plays in the lyric. It's a relief. It's a way of dealing with things.
Yeah.
My poetry's still very young, and some of the stuff I wrote at the beginning, you look back and go, "Oh, it's just page fillers."
Mhm.
But on the odd occasion, I do write stuff down that is personal.
Yeah.
It's very painful to write. It's very painful to go over and read, and it's even more painful to share.
Yeah.
But I've got to the point now where I am. I've met a couple of guys from similar backgrounds from different parts of the country, and we share amongst ourselves first. And you've sort of got a controlled environment there to open up to,
Yeah.
and then you can publish. And the confidence is growing with it. But it's some of it will never make it out. Some of it is just too personal.
Yeah.
I wrote my wife a love poem a while back, and that's the first I've done that. I
Yeah.
have done it since.
Oh, read it out. Come on, read it out to us.
I
She's
have
got
here, actually.
yeah. Thanks very much. She has the only copy, and that's where it'll stay. But I have done stuff from childhood, and at the minute we're working in a group to. I come from a loyalist community, and we're looking at poetry that reflects that and reflects that era.
Yeah.
So whether it be anything to do with the troubles itself, or just what life in general was like, living in your 2-bedroom yard, kitchen, house, bathing in a basin in front of the fire, which still was going on in the 80s.
Sam, I'll have to make an excuse for Marty. He was growing in the era of central heat and double glazing,
Spoiled.
light bulbs and all of the
Spoiled.
light bulbs and all
Yeah.
of the fittings and toilet roll as well.
You have no idea.
No,
You have no idea.
There's no idea what it was like.
Yeah, so
I have a wee image here, Sam, and if you could take yourself back, and wee Sam McElwain that was running out of the 2 up, 2 down, backyard, outside toilet sort of place, right? And you were to be said, well, here's Sam McElwain in 30 years' time. He's going to the Lyric. He's going to watch him plays. He's writing poetry, and the transformation is remarkable. I would imagine.
Yeah.
From what you've said, what do you think you would tell yourself?
catch
What
yourself
advice? What advice do you think you would give yourself with your pathway? And I know you're not finished, by the way.
Yeah.
But what would you say to a young Sam McElwain who's playing out the backyards in the Shankill Road?
Don't be frightened to express yourself. Talk. You might be the man of the house as such, but you do need to share.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm a wee baby just in case.
Sorry.
He's having a baby.
He's not having a baby now.
Just 3 days overdue, so kind of. No, it's okay. I'll keep this here. That's all right, guys. Sorry.
Bring in the milk.
We'll cut that. We'll cut that back in anyway. or might just leave it because that would be nice news on a Mind Your Bap episode.
Exactly.
It would. Yeah. No. So that's. I think that's a lovely thing for any of us to do. Is when we think back to those days, especially when the negative memories are coming up.
Yeah.
So, well, what would I tell that? What would I tell that young Sam now? And as you say.
Well, I'd probably tell him what I tell most people now that I talk to. If there's a guy that I would see on a regular basis through work, and I learned while I was away on holiday that his father passed away, and he's taken it rather badly, and he's going through the grieving process. He's got anger and he's got guilt. Why is he still working? And there's a whole lot going on. And I was talking to him, and I told him about what had happened last year to me, and I said I'm not telling people about it because why would I expect him to go and get help if I can't be honest about what happened to me?
Yep.
So I share. So if I was to go back and speak to I'd probably go back to a young teenager and say, Sam, this is what you need to do. You need to go and talk to somebody. Because there still is issues from my childhood that I still can't talk about. Because there's things I would like to get off my chest about not having my dad around, about the kind of atmosphere that we grew up in, and the things that we as a family had to experience for no fault of our own. But the people that I need to talk to, my mum, she's not in a strong place to do that with. My dad, who just doesn't open up and won't open up about.
He's from that generation.
Yeah, I can't. We recently found a photograph and a bit of research that we were doing, and it was the aftermath of an attack on the Shankill, and my dad was clearing debris, and there was body parts and there was blood and there was gore, and he experienced that as a young man.
Yeah.
And then his path changed. Was that the trigger point there? If he had have went and opened up, would his path have been different?
Quite possibly.
If his path was different, would mine have been different?
Yeah.
And it's the what ifs.
Yeah.
So people need to talk.
Yeah.
It may not have changed.
Well, prevention is where we need to be at.
Yes.
Intervention is the stage that many of us are at, and prevention is actually the goal. It's the golden egg. We're going to wrap up here, Sam, but I think, given that this was about carers, the pressure on carers, and your story, if anybody's watching this and they are a carer, what advice would and could you give them in terms of how to maintain their...
Okay, do more than what I did is the first bit. Go and ask for help. Don't put it off. I did. I've got to be at least 6-7 years worth of just procrastination. I'll do that next week. I'll speak to my GP. But for a guy who doesn't go to a GP at all, making an appointment to go and speak about that was never going to happen. Speak to your friends. Get a circle of trust with somebody and speak to them. Open up, because you'll be surprised what that answer you'll get back from that person. Because you'll find that you're not alone. We all suffer to some extent with mental health issues. Nobody is going to be missed by this. So whether just be some days I'm just not in great form to the other end of the extreme where my mother was at, we can all relate. We can all talk. It's about, and I know people go on about the hashtag it's okay to talk and it's okay not to be okay, but that only works when everybody buys into it.
Agreed,
and so that's why I'm here today, this is about as uncomfortable as it gets for me. I talk about on this, not talking about this subject I'm passionate about, talking about the subject for me and how I was is uncomfortable, and I prefer to do it one-on-one with people. But if I come in today and do this, hopefully somebody will contact you guys and go, I'm the same. Where do I go? I still don't know where to go, but I now have the girl Siobhan that comes out to my mum. I have her as a point of contact. I have a solid base of friends now that I talk to. I have forced myself to be more open with my wife and discuss issues that are painful. And I've also allowed myself to be selfish a bit. So I can go to the gym, I can go for a run, I can go for a coffee with a friend that I wouldn't have done before, because that time could have been at mum's or could have been doing something else. I now cut things out of my life that are superfluous. I don't need them there.
That's not selfish either. It's just self-awareness.
Self-care.
But you need to be, at that point when you're cutting things, you need to be brutal. Am I doing this to keep somebody else happy, or am I doing this to be happy? And if you're doing it to make somebody else happy, is it worth it? Are you getting enough in return out of it? There's got to be a payback for it, because there's not. As you said, if you keep emptying yourself out, at some point you will become empty. I was lucky in the way that instinct kicked over, and I ended up where I ended up. If I had went the other way,
someone else might have taken a right turn.
I mean, that's the problem. That's, it's left a chance then, isn't it? When some people will go the other way, really. So you just don't know.
I remember reading figures about how many married men in their sort of middle ages just disappear. Not necessarily go and take their own lives, but just disappear.
Walk away from life as they know it.
The pressure.
And at what point do we get to before we go, I need help? Things have got to stop. I've got to get off this for a while and have a look.
And on that note as well, we'll put some links up just in case people don't realise that you can.
Please do.
That you can go and basically get help.
We'll people you can talk to.
For guys, Very good.
All right, guys. Well, Sam, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
At the Mind Your Bap studio here at Lisburn's 98 FM, our partners. And okay, so guys, we'll just finish there. Oh, you have to stand up.
It has to be the
Bring it in.
the
Bring it in.
Musketeers.
Bring it in. Mind Your Bap.
Mind Your Bap.